By the time her sister started opening the baby shower gifts, the cake knife was still warm in Lena Parker's hand. She stood in her mother's living room, 9 months pregnant, smiling the way women are taught to smile when something feels wrong but no one else seems to notice. The room was filled with pink balloons, soft music, and a handmade banner that read "Welcome Baby Girl." It was the nicest party her family had ever thrown, carefully planned, perfectly decorated, and full of people holding phones up for photos. Lena had spent weeks telling herself not to expect much. Still, she hadn't expected this. Her younger sister Megan stood near the gift table, one hand resting casually on her flat stomach, the other holding a glass she tapped with a spoon. "I have an announcement," Megan said brightly. The room went quiet. Then she smiled wide. "I'm pregnant too." Cheers exploded around the room. Lena clapped along, her heart dropping somewhere behind her ribs. Before the noise even settled, Megan walked straight to the gift table. She laughed and picked up a large bag. "I'm due first," she said lightly, already pulling out a baby monitor. "So I'll need these more." Lena waited for someone to stop her. No one did. People laughed as if it were a joke. Lena laughed too, because that was easier than crying in front of everyone she loved. Megan turned toward her, holding the box up like a prize. "You don't mind, right?" she said. "You've got that salon money. You can just buy more." A few people chuckled. Lena's mother, Carol, didn't even look uncomfortable. She was already lifting bags from the table, stacking them in her arms. "That makes sense," Carol said briskly. "We'll load everything into Megan's car. You don't even have a crib yet, Lena. Don't rush yourself." Lena watched her mother carry out the stroller she had spent nights researching, comparing prices and reviews while her feet swelled and her back ached. Megan unwrapped a tiny pink onesie, Lena's daughter's name stitched across the chest. "Oh, we can redo this," Megan said, laughing. "My baby's name will look cuter anyway." More laughter followed. Lena felt her throat tighten. Her hands shook so badly she had to set the cake knife down. She said nothing. She refilled drinks. She nodded. She watched her baby shower disappear into the trunk of someone else's car. When the house finally went quiet, Lena's husband Evan stepped beside her and placed a hand on her lower back. "You okay?" he asked softly. She swallowed hard. "I'm just tired," she said, even though it wasn't true. Lena was 33 and lived in Dallas. She owned a small beauty salon called Sunleaf Studio, something she had built herself from a 3-chair space squeezed between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Over the years, she grew it into a full salon with multiple stylists and a waiting list. She wasn't rich, but she was careful. She knew money. She knew budgets, payroll, rent, and what it took to keep lights on. To her family, though, Lena had always been one thing: the backup bank. She had helped her parents refinance their house. She covered repairs, groceries, and emergencies without complaint. When Megan got married, Lena paid for the dress, hair, and makeup, doing the work herself after a long day at the salon. Every month, she sent her mother money for groceries. If a bill was late, they called Lena. If someone needed help, they called Lena. And she always answered. Her family never hid who they favored. Megan lived close, had children early, and fit neatly into the picture her parents liked to show off. Lena was different, the business owner, the one with ideas, the one they quietly relied on but rarely praised. Her mother introduced Megan's kids at church as the grandchildren and then added, almost as an afterthought, "And this is our other daughter. She does hair." When Lena announced her pregnancy, her mother's first question wasn't excitement. It was, "Can you afford this?" After the shower, Lena and Evan stood in the half-finished nursery of their rented duplex, staring at the empty space where the crib should have been. Evan laughed softly. "We'll figure it out," he said. And they did. They found second-hand furniture, borrowed items from friends, and built something warm and simple on their own. When their daughter Nora was born 3 weeks later, nothing else mattered. She was tiny, serious, and perfect. Lena cried. Evan cried harder. Her mother visited the hospital briefly, took photos that mostly showed her own face, and left early because of traffic. Megan didn't come at all. The months that followed were exhausting and quiet. Lena balanced late-night feedings with bookkeeping, pumping milk in the back room of the salon between clients. Her mother dropped by occasionally, offering comments instead of help. Megan's pregnancy is much harder, she'd say. It's different when it's your first. Meanwhile, Lena kept sending money, still paying for groceries, still filling gaps she shouldn't have. 4 months after Nora was born, Lena received a text while pumping at work. Emergency. Megan wrote, "Can you co-sign a loan? Just $30,000 for baby stuff." Lena stared at the screen, then typed slowly, "Absolutely not." She thought that was the end. She was wrong. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. "Welcome to your new personal loan." Lena read the words again and again, her name listed as co-signer. Her signature almost right, but not quite. Her stomach dropped. Evan read the letter, then looked at her. "We're not letting this go," he said. For the first time in her life, Lena realized that saying no was only the beginning. Lena didn't sleep that night. She sat at the kitchen table after Evan finally rocked Nora down, the loan letter spread open beside a cold cup of tea. The numbers stared back at her monthly payments, due dates, interest she had never agreed to carry. "She forged my name," Lena whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Evan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, jaw tight. "This isn't a mistake," he said. "This is fraud." Lena shook her head slowly. "She asked me. I said no. In writing." Evan exhaled. "Then we treat it like what it is." The next morning, Lena strapped Nora to her chest and went to the credit union in person. The fluorescent lights made everyone look tired and pale. At the counter, she slid the letter across and said calmly, "I need to report a fraudulent loan." The teller hesitated. "This involves family," she said quietly. Lena's voice didn't shake. "It involves my name." That sentence felt new in her mouth, solid, firm, and overdue. The process was long and draining. Lena spent hours on hold, repeating herself to different voices, faxing documents, and emailing screenshots of texts where she had clearly refused. She filed a fraud affidavit. She froze her credit. She walked into her bank and asked to remove every authorized user tied to her accounts. The banker looked uncomfortable. "This could affect their credit," he warned. Lena nodded. "It already has," she said. When the final confirmation screen appeared, the banker paused. "Once this is done, it can't be undone without new applications from everyone involved." Lena didn't hesitate. "Click it." Walking out of the bank, Nora asleep against her chest, Lena felt something unfamiliar, relief mixed with grief. That night, the messages started. Her mother texted first. "You're overreacting. Your sister panicked." Then another message followed. "Our card declined at the store. Fix it." Lena didn't reply. The phone rang. Then rang again. She turned it face down and held her baby tighter. The next afternoon, her parents showed up unannounced. Megan stood behind them, visibly pregnant, arms folded protectively over her stomach. "How could you do this?" Carol demanded the moment the door opened. "You froze your credit? You called the bank?" Megan stepped forward, eyes already glossy. "It was just paperwork," she said. "They said you'd probably say yes anyway." Lena stared at her, stunned. "I said no," she replied. "You used my license. You signed my name." Her father scoffed. "Your family. You fix this." Evan moved slightly closer to Lena. "No," Lena said, louder now. "I didn't do this. She did." Carol tried a softer tone. Think about Nora, she said. She needs family. Lena thought about the baby shower, the empty nursery, the forged signature. She needs safety, Lena answered. Not people who steal from her mother. Megan's voice cracked. You're ruining my life. Lena met her eyes. You built this on my back, she said. I'm stepping off. The investigation moved faster than Lena expected. The credit union pulled branch footage and handwriting samples. Megan appeared clearly on camera, signing papers, sliding over a copy of Lena's ID. The loan was frozen. The bank decided to press charges. When the district attorney's office called, Lena felt sick. We'll need you to testify, the attorney said. Court was cold and quiet. Lena wore the same blouse she'd worn to sign her first salon lease, grounding herself in the memory of earning something honestly. Her parents sat behind Megan, faces tight and wounded. Megan's lawyer called her a stressed young mother who made a mistake. Then the spending report was read aloud: luxury furniture, handbags, a Vegas trip, electronics, a content course, spa visits. Baby items were listed too, but they were buried beneath lifestyle purchases. The judge listened without expression. Finally, he looked at Megan. Wanting the best for your child does not excuse committing crimes, he said. The room felt smaller after that. Megan took a plea deal. Probation. Restitution. A felony record. Lena's name was removed from the loan entirely. Her credit was cleared. Outside the courtroom, her mother cried. You ruined her future, Carol said. Lena shook her head. She ruined it when she used my name. That night, Lena blocked numbers she had answered for years. The silence that followed was heavy, but peaceful. On Nora's first birthday, there were no balloon arches or gift tables. Just a simple cake, laughter, and people who showed up without expecting anything in return. Lena watched her daughter smash strawberries into frosting and felt something settle inside her. For the first time, her money was quiet. Her boundaries were loud. And the life she was building, for herself and her child, finally belonged to her. The weeks after the court decision felt unreal to Lena. The house was quieter than it had ever been, not just because the phone stopped ringing, but because her mind finally did. No late-night anxiety about surprise withdrawals. No stomach drop when opening her banking app. Evan noticed the change first. You're breathing differently, he said one evening as they folded laundry while Nora slept. Lena smiled faintly. I didn't realize how tense I was, she admitted. At the salon, her stylists commented too. You look lighter, one of them said. Lena laughed. I stopped carrying things that weren't mine. Still, the emotional weight lingered. She mourned the family she thought she had, the version where love wasn't tied to money, where boundaries were respected. Some nights, she replayed the baby shower in her head, wondering why she hadn't spoken up sooner. Evan would gently interrupt those spirals. You protected our daughter, he'd say. That's what matters. Slowly, Lena began to believe it. Her mother tried one last time. The call came from a new number, soft and careful. I don't understand why you hate us, Carol said. Lena closed her eyes. I don't hate you, she replied. I just won't be used anymore. Carol sighed dramatically. Families help each other. Lena's voice stayed calm. Families also don't forge signatures. There was silence on the other end, followed by a clipped goodbye. Lena blocked the number and sat quietly for a moment. It hurt, but it hurt less than staying silent had. That night, she wrote down every bill she paid for herself now. Every dollar that stayed in her account. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. For the first time, Lena understood that generosity without boundaries wasn't kindness, it was permission. And she had taken that permission back. At the salon, Lena began planning again, not just surviving. She expanded hours slowly, hired another assistant, and stopped undercharging out of guilt. One afternoon, while rocking Nora in the back room, she realized something startling. "I'm not scared anymore," she whispered to Evan later. He nodded. "That's what happens when no one has access to your future." Lena laughed softly. She thought of Megan, of her parents, of how often they'd said, "You'll figure it out." This time, she had, and without them. She started a savings account labeled Nora, contributing small amounts each month. No one knew about it. No one needed to. It was hers. It was quiet. It was safe. Nora's first birthday arrived without drama. No extravagant decorations. No performance. Just a simple cake Lena baked herself, slightly uneven but sweet. Friends from the salon came by. Evan's mother held Nora for hours, whispering gentle prayers over her hair. One longtime client dropped off tiny sneakers. A stylist brought handmade bows. Lena noticed something important. No one asked her for anything. No one took anything home except leftovers. 2 chairs sat empty at the table. Lena placed them there deliberately. Not as an invitation, but as a reminder. She looked at them once, then turned back to her daughter, who was busy smashing frosting into her cheeks. "This," Lena said quietly to Evan, "is what peace looks like." Evan squeezed her hand. "You earned it." That night, after everyone left and the house smelled like sugar and baby soap, Lena rocked Nora in the small nursery they had built piece by piece. Second-hand crib. Thrifted chair. Soft lights salvaged from the salon. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Nora rested her head against Lena's chest, already drifting to sleep. For years, Lena had tried to buy love with money, effort, silence. But love, she finally understood, didn't come with invoices or guilt. It showed up freely or it didn't show up at all. Lena kissed her daughter's hair and whispered, "You'll never owe anyone your peace." Her accounts were quiet now. Her phone was quieter. And for the first time, her life felt full not because of what she gave, but because of what she finally kept. In the months that followed Nora's birthday, Lena began noticing how much energy she had been spending just managing other people's expectations. Without the constant calls and sudden emergencies, her days felt longer in a good way. Mornings started with coffee on the porch while Nora played on a blanket at her feet. At the salon, Lena no longer checked her phone between clients with dread. One afternoon, her stylist Rachel leaned against the doorway and asked carefully, "You doing okay with your family stuff?" Lena nodded. "I am," she said, surprised to hear how true it sounded. "I finally stopped negotiating my worth." Rachel smiled. "Good," she said, "because you've always been generous. You just needed to be protected too." That sentence stayed with Lena longer than Rachel probably knew. Not everyone respected the change. A distant aunt messaged Lena on social media. "Your mother is heartbroken," the woman wrote. "Family shouldn't involve police." Lena stared at the screen for a long moment, then replied simply, "Family shouldn't involve forgery." She blocked the aunt without another word. For the first time, Lena didn't feel guilty about it. She had learned that explaining herself only invited more debate. Silence, she realized, was not cruelty, it was closure. Evan noticed her confidence growing. "You're different," he said one night as they cleaned up dinner. Lena shrugged lightly. "I'm the same," she replied. "I'm just not apologizing anymore." Megan tried once more, months later, through an email Lena almost deleted without reading. "I never meant to hurt you," Megan wrote. "I was desperate. You've always been strong." Lena read it twice, then closed her laptop. Strength, she now understood, wasn't absorbing harm quietly. It was stopping it. She didn't respond. Instead, she opened her budgeting app and increased Nora's savings contribution by $20. It felt like a better use of her energy. That night, she told Evan, "I don't need an apology that still blames me for being capable." Evan nodded. You don't owe her healing, he said. Lena smiled. But I owe my daughter peace. At the salon's anniversary party later that year, Lena stood in the middle of the room watching her team laugh, music humming softly in the background. This business had survived pandemics, slow seasons, and her own maternity leave. It had grown because Lena showed up every day even when she was exhausted, pregnant, or heartbroken. One of her clients raised a glass. To Lena, she said, for building something honest. The room applauded. Lena felt her eyes sting, but she didn't look away. She realized then that this respect earned, not demanded, was what she had always wanted from her family. And she had found it elsewhere. Later that night, Lena rocked Nora to sleep and thought about the future. There would be questions one day, curiosity, maybe even sadness. But there would also be truth. Some people choose comfort over kindness, she whispered softly. And we choose each other. Nora shifted and sighed, warm and safe. Lena leaned back in the chair, listening to the quiet of a life no longer interrupted by guilt or obligation. She had learned a hard lesson, but it had given her something priceless, a clean slate. And this time, no one else had access to it. As the year turned, Lena noticed how differently she moved through the world. She no longer rehearsed explanations in her head before family gatherings because there were none. Instead, she planned weekends around what made her household feel steady. Grocery shopping stopped being stressful. Bills were paid without resentment. Even small decisions felt lighter. One evening, as she and Evan sat on the floor helping Nora stack wooden blocks, Evan said quietly, "You know, this is the first year we're not cleaning up someone else's mess." Lena laughed softly. "I didn't realize how much of my life was that," she admitted. Nora knocked the blocks over and squealed. Lena kissed her head. "You won't grow up thinking love means sacrifice without limits," she whispered. Saying it out loud made it feel real. Spring brought unexpected peace. Lena's mother didn't reach out again, but distant relatives occasionally tested the silence. A cousin messaged asking if Lena would help cover travel costs for a family event. Lena typed, erased, then sent a simple reply. "I'm not able to help financially." The cousin never responded. The lack of backlash surprised her. Lena realized most people didn't need explanations, they needed boundaries. At the salon, she raised prices slightly and no longer apologized for them. "We're worth it," she told her team. They agreed. That night, Evan looked over their updated budget and smiled. "We're actually ahead," he said. Lena stared at the numbers, feeling a quiet pride she hadn't allowed herself before. One afternoon, Lena ran into Tara, a cousin she hadn't seen in years, at a coffee shop. Tara hesitated before speaking. "I was at the hearing," she said softly. Lena nodded. Tara shook her head. "Seeing it all laid out, the spending, the lies, I finally understood what they were doing to you." Lena exhaled slowly. "I wish it hadn't taken court," she said. Tara looked embarrassed. "Me too. I should have said something sooner." She paused, then smiled gently at Nora. "She's lucky," Tara added. "She'll grow up seeing her mother protect herself." Lena felt something warm settle in her chest. Validation, she realized, felt best when it came without strings. That summer, Lena started writing letters she never sent. Letters to her parents. To Megan. To the version of herself who kept saying yes. She didn't hold back in them. She wrote about the baby shower, the forged signature, the shame, the relief. Afterward, she tore them up and threw them away. The release came not from confrontation, but from honesty with herself. Evan found her one evening holding the scraps. "You okay?" he asked. Lena nodded. "I am," she said. "I don't need them to understand anymore." Evan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "That's freedom," he said. She leaned into him, knowing he was right. On a quiet Sunday, Lena stood in Nora's doorway watching her nap, sunlight stretching across the floor. The nursery wasn't impressive, but it was full of care, every item chosen without pressure, every corner built with intention. Lena thought about the years she spent trying to earn love with money and silence. She had finally learned the truth. Love that has to be bought isn't love, it's control. She closed the door softly and returned to the living room where Evan waited. "Ready?" he asked. Lena smiled. "Yeah," she said. For the first time, the future didn't feel heavy. It felt open. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after Lena cut financial ties with her family, but it became honest. There were still hard days, tight schedules at the salon, sleepless nights when Nora was teething, moments when grief surfaced unexpectedly. But none of those struggles felt unfair. They were simply part of building a life. Lena noticed she laughed more. She stopped flinching when her phone buzzed. When bills came in, she paid them without resentment or fear. One evening, Evan watched her balancing the checkbook at the kitchen table. "You know what's wild?" he said. "We're finally living within our means, and somehow we have more." Lena smiled. "Because no one's siphoning it off," she replied. The truth landed gently but firmly between them. Months later, Lena heard through Tara that Megan was struggling. Probation meetings. Required counseling. A job application rejected after a background check. Her parents were furious at the system, blaming everyone except the person who had committed the crime. Tara asked carefully, "Do you feel bad?" Lena thought about it honestly. "I feel sad," she said. "But not guilty." She had learned the difference. Guilt belonged to choices you regretted. Sadness belonged to reality. She could hold compassion without sacrificing herself. That realization felt like growth, not cruelty. One afternoon at the salon, a young client hesitated before speaking. "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" she said. Lena nodded. "My family keeps asking me for money," the woman admitted. "I feel awful saying no." Lena met her eyes in the mirror. "Then say no anyway," she said gently. "If your kindness costs you your future, it's not kindness anymore." The woman swallowed hard and nodded. Later, Lena realized how far she had come offering wisdom she once desperately needed herself. When Nora turned 2, Lena took her to the salon for the afternoon. The stylists laughed as Nora toddled between chairs, waving at clients like she owned the place. "Future boss," someone joked. Lena watched her daughter with a full heart. Nora would grow up seeing her mother work hard, set limits, and protect what mattered. She would never be taught that love meant overgiving. That lesson alone was worth every difficult step it took to get here. Carol tried once more, an email sent late at night. "I don't recognize you anymore," it read. Lena stared at the words for a long time. Then she typed a single sentence and deleted it. Some conversations were no longer necessary. She closed her laptop, walked into the living room, and joined Evan and Nora on the floor. That choice felt like an answer all on its own. Over time, the story stopped hurting as much. It became something Lena could tell without shaking. Not as a warning, but as proof. Proof that boundaries could coexist with love. Proof that protecting yourself wasn't abandonment. Proof that silence could be strength. She stopped wishing things had been different and started appreciating how clear everything had become. One quiet evening, Evan asked, "Do you ever regret it?" Lena thought about the empty gift table, the forged signature, the courtroom list of purchases read out loud. She shook her head. "I regret how long it took me to stop," she said. "Not stopping." Evan nodded. "That's the difference," he said. Lena stood at the salon window one night after closing, watching the lights reflect off the glass. She had built this business with patience and care. She had built her family the same way. Nothing flashy. Nothing borrowed. Everything earned. She felt proud, not loudly, not defensively, but quietly and deeply. At home, Lena tucked Nora into bed and smoothed her hair back. "You'll never have to prove you deserve love," she whispered. Nora shifted and sighed, already drifting off. Lena turned off the light and closed the door softly, knowing she meant every word. For years, Lena's family treated her money as her value. They took, assumed, and crossed lines until there were none left to cross. But the day Lena said absolutely not and backed it with action, everything changed. Her accounts became quiet. Her home became peaceful. Her daughter grew up surrounded by people who showed up without asking for anything in return. Lena didn't lose her family. She lost the illusion that love could be bought. And in its place, she built something far better, a life that finally belonged to her.